In today's lecture, we'll understand what is left recursion. Left recursion causes problem in the top-down parsing, and we'll look at a method for eliminating the left recursion from the grammar. Here is an example of the grammar given, and this grammar is accepting this string. So we'll look at the derivation of this string using this grammar. I told you in the previous lecture that in top-down parsing we are performing the leftmost derivation. So we'll perform the leftmost derivation of this string. So we start the derivation from the starting symbol capital S, and in the first step of the derivation I expand capital S using the production capital A, capital B and a small g. So this is the first sentential form that we have obtained during the step of the derivation. Now let us analyze the string with respect to this sentential form. Any string which is derivable from this sentential form can be broken into the three components. First component, which is derivable from capital A, followed by the component which is derivable from capital B, and at the end there has got to be a small g. Now this string is supposed to be derivable from this sentential form, so that means this string can be broken into the three components. First component which is derivable from capital A, followed by the component which is derivable from capital B, and then there has got to be a small g. So if I look at this string, this is the component which is derivable from capital A, this is the component which is derivable from capital B, and finally at the end I have small g. So this string has been broken into the three components like this. In the next step of the derivation, let me erase this. In the next step of the derivation, I expand capital A using the first production and I obtain the sentential form small a, capital B and a small g. Now I can analyze this string with respect to this sentential form. Now I can say that once I have, if this string has got to be derivable from this sentential form, it can be broken like this. It has got to begin from a small a, followed by the component which is derivable from capital A, then there has got to be component which is derivable from capital B, and then there has got to be small g. So if I look at this string, it is beginning from a small a, and then I have the component which is derivable from the capital A. This is the component derivable from capital B, and then I have small g. So this is how this string can be broken with respect to this sentential form. Now let us carry out one more step of the derivation, and I expand the capital A, this is the leftmost variable, and I obtain the sentential form this. Now I can analyze this string with respect to this sentential form. And similarly, as we did earlier, I can say that for this string to be derivable from this sentential form, it has to begin from a small a, followed by the component derivable from capital A, and then there has got to be component from derivable from capital B, and then there has got to be a small g at the end. So I can always analyze the given string with respect to the sentential form that we are obtaining in the derivation. In the next step of the derivation, I expand capital A using the second production, and I obtain the sentential form this. And in the next step of the derivation, capital B is the leftmost variable, and I expand it using the only production, that is CD, and I obtain the given string. The point is that as we are performing the derivation, we are obtaining the sentential form, and I can analyze the sentential form and the given string together and try to understand as to what is happening during the top-down parsing. Let me now generalize the discussion. Let's assume that this is the string that we are parsing, and we are starting the derivation from starting symbol capital S. During the course of the derivation, let's assume that at some point of time we obtain the sentential form small a, capital S and a small d. What is the significance of the sentential form? The significance is this string is supposed to be derivable from the sentential form. And what does it mean? It means that now this string can be broken like this. It should begin from small a, followed by the component which is derivable from capital A, followed by the component which is derivable from capital S, and at the end there has to be a small d. So when I look at this string with respect to this sentential form, I can say that this string can be broken in this manner. I carry out further steps of the derivation, and later on I obtain the sentential form small a, small b, capital A, small d, capital S and a small d. Now I can interpret this same string based upon this sentential form, and now I can say that this string must begin with small a, small b, followed by the component which is derivable from capital A, and then there has to be a small d, and then there has to be component which is derivable from capital S, and finally at the end there has to be a small d. So I can analyze the string that we are parsing based upon the sentential form that we are obtaining during the course of the parsing. Let's take another example of the grammar. Capital L derives L comma identifier. Capital L derives identifier. It's a very simple grammar containing only two production. What is being realized by this grammar? It is accepting a list of identifier. And this is one of the string accepted by this grammar. We'll do the parsing of this string. We'll do the derivation of this. So we start the derivation from the starting symbol capital L, and in the first step of the derivation I obtain the sentential form L comma identifier. This identifier which is there in this sentential form is which identifier? Whether it is the first one in the input string, or the second one in the input string, or the third one, or the fourth one. This identifier that we have obtained in the sentential form is actually the last identifier. I continue the derivation, and in the next step I further expand the capital L and obtain this sentential form. The two IDs which are there, they are the last two IDs in the input string. I'll further expand capital L using the first production, and I obtain the sentential form L comma identifier comma identifier comma identifier. The three identifiers which are there in this in this sentential form, they are the last three identifier which are there in the input string. Question now is, how does the parser know that it has to keep applying first production in order to expand the capital L? Since during the course of the derivation we are obtaining the string from the back, we are not obtaining the string from the front end. Lexical analyzer scans the program and gives the token to the syntax analyzer from the front end. So in this case, it's difficult for the parser, the top-down parser, to know when to stop expanding capital L using the first production, and it has to apply the second production. In the last step, I will apply the second production, and I obtain this sentential form. And why is this problem arising? This problem is arising because if I look at this production, on the right hand side it is beginning from the same variable which is there on the left hand side. So this grammar is said to be left recursive grammar. So that is why this problem is arising. So if the grammar is left recursive, then in that case top down parser faces problem in order to parse the string. So if I want to design the top-down parser, then in that case the grammar should not be left recursive. If the grammar is left recursive, we have to eliminate the left recursion in the grammar. Left recursion is of two types. First one is immediate left recursion, and the second one is left recursion in more than one step. If there is a grammar which is containing production of the type capital A derives A alpha, the right hand side is beginning with the same variable which is there on the left hand side, then the grammar is left recursive and it is an example of immediate left recursion. If I look at this grammar, there is no production which is containing immediate left recursion. But if I do the derivation, then in that case, a situation for left recursion will be arising. For example, I start the derivation from a starting variable capital S and I expand the capital S using the first production and I obtain this sentential form. Now I expand capital A using the second production and I obtain this sentential form. So I can say that from capital S in 0 or more step of the derivation, I obtain the sentential form this, and this is beginning with the same variable from which we started the derivation. So once again the case of left recursion, but this left recursion was there in more than one step. So this is the second type in which left recursion is there in more than one step. We'll now discuss elimination of both types of left recursion, immediate left recursion and left recursion in more than one step. First of all, let us discuss elimination of immediate left recursion. Let's take the example of this grammar, capital A derives A alpha and capital A derives beta. If you look at the production, in this production, right hand side is beginning with the same variable which is there on the left hand side. So here I have immediate left recursion existing in the grammar. So we'll see how do we eliminate this immediate left recursion. First of all, let us understand what kind of a string is accepted by this grammar. I start the derivation from capital A and I expand it to A alpha. I further expand capital A and I obtain this. I further expand capital A and I obtain, for example, this. And let's say now I apply the second production and I obtain, for example, this. So I can say that in general, what kind of strings are accepted by this grammar? This grammar is accepting a string which is beginning with beta followed by 0 or more alpha. If I construct the derivation tree, it looks like this. Capital A derives A alpha, capital A derives A alpha, capital A derives A alpha, and now I am replacing A with beta. So this is the parse tree for the string beta, alpha, alpha, and alpha. I have immediate left recursion existing in this grammar. In order to eliminate the immediate left recursion, I'm replacing this grammar with this grammar. So these two productions are being replaced with these three productions. If you analyze this grammar, I'm introducing a new variable and that is a dash. And first of all, if you examine this, you will find that now immediate left recursion is not there. So in this production, the right hand side is not beginning with the same variable. Here also it is beginning with alpha. So the immediate left recursion that was there in this grammar, that has got eliminated. So if I replace this grammar with this grammar, in that case immediate left recursion will get eliminated. But now I have to establish that this grammar is equivalent to the first one. So this grammar is accepting the same string which is being accepted by this. Let us now construct the parse tree using the second grammar, using the modified grammar. The parse tree for the string beta followed by alpha look like this. From capital A, I am deriving beta A dash, and then I have alpha A dash, I have alpha A dash, I have alpha A dash, and finally a dash is getting replaced with beta. So this is the parse tree for the string beta, alpha, alpha, alpha. So this parse tree is using the first grammar beta followed by 3 alpha, and this parse tree is using the second grammar beta followed by 3 alphas. So if you examine and analyze these two parse tree, I can say that this grammar is equivalent to this grammar, and in this grammar the immediate left recursion that also has got eliminated. Now what we'll do is we'll apply this technique to an example and see that how can we eliminate immediate left recursion for an example. Let's now consider this example. This grammar we had discussed in the previous lectures also. This grammar is accepting arithmetic expression, and this grammar is unambiguous grammar. If you examine this grammar, you will find that over here I have immediate left recursion, and over here I have immediate left recursion. Let's compare these two production over this grammar. What is alpha and beta? Alpha in this grammar is plus t and beta is capital T. And similarly, let us compare these two production with this grammar. Alpha is a star f and beta is capital F. So let me mark it over here. Alpha is this is alpha and this is beta, and similarly this is alpha and this is beta. Let me now modify the grammar and write the modified production according to this pattern so that immediate left recursion gets eliminated. So let us write the modified production. Modified productions are capital E derives beta, which is capital T. I have to introduce a new variable. Let me call it E dash, and from E dash I have production alpha, which is plus capital T, E dash, and another production is from E dash I am deriving epsilon. Let us write the modified production for the variable capital T. Capital T derives beta, which is capital F. I have to introduce a new variable. Let me call it T dash, and from T dash I am deriving alpha, which is a star F, and followed by this T dash, and T dash from T dash I am also deriving epsilon. And the remaining productions of the grammar, they remain to be as it is. Capital F derives within bracket capital E, and capital F derives identifier. So this grammar got transformed to this, and if you examine this grammar, I do not have immediate left recursion in any of the production. So immediate left recursion which was there in this grammar at this place and at this place, that has got eliminated, and now my grammar has got modified to this, and this grammar is without immediate left recursion. In the previous example, we had single alpha and we had single beta. Now let us consider the example where I have more than one alpha and more than one beta. So I have immediate left recursion like this. From capital A, I have productions A alpha 1, A alpha 2, and so on up to A alpha m. So I have more than one alpha, alpha 1, alpha 2, and so on. Similarly, I have more than one beta, so beta 1, beta 2, and so on up to beta n. So we have immediate left recursion here, we have immediate left recursion here, we have immediate left recursion here, and if I want to eliminate immediate left recursion from these places, I will rewrite the productions of this grammar and replace them with this one. I'll introduce a new variable A dash, and now I'll write the productions like capital A derives beta 1 A dash, beta 2 A dash, and so on up to beta n A dash, and similarly from A dash I have alpha 1 A dash, alpha 2 A dash, and so on up to alpha m A dash, and another production is from A dash I'm deriving epsilon. Now let us apply this to an example. The example is capital E derives E plus T, capital E derives E minus T, capital E derives capital A and capital B. I have not shown the complete grammar. I'm only showing the production concerning the variable capital E, and will eliminate the immediate left recursion which is here and immediate left recursion which is here. Let us compare this grammar with this grammar. What is alpha 1, alpha 2 and so on, and what is beta 1, beta 2 and so on. So when you compare, then you will find that this is alpha 1, this is alpha 2, and this is beta 1, and this is beta 2. Now in order to eliminate the immediate left recursion at two places, I'll rewrite the productions of the grammar in this manner. I have immediate left recursion here, I have immediate left recursion here. In order to eliminate them, I will rewrite the productions of the grammar according to this pattern, and the productions become capital E derives beta 1 which is capital A. I have to introduce a new variable, let me call it E dash. Similarly, beta 2 which is capital B and E dash. Similarly, from E dash I'll have the production alpha 1 which is plus T, and then E dash, and alpha 2 which is minus T, E dash, and I have epsilon. So these productions, they got transformed to this, and now immediate left recursion is not there. So when you have more than one alpha and more than one beta, then you can eliminate the immediate left recursion according to this pattern. Let us now discuss elimination of second type of left recursion, that is left recursion in more than one step. I'll explain you the algorithm using an example. The example that we have taken is shown over here. In this grammar, there are three variables, capital S, capital A, and capital B. And at this place in the grammar, there is immediate left recursion. And do we have left recursion in more than one step? We have. If I start the derivation from capital S, I expand it using the second production and I obtain this. And then I expand the capital A and I obtain this string. And if you look at this string, this is beginning with capital S. So we have left recursion more than one step existing in this grammar. And now we'll talk about the algorithm using which you can eliminate the left recursion in more than one step. So first of all, what you will do is you will place the variable in some order. So let us say that the order that I have selected is I am placing the variable capital S first of all, followed by the variable capital A, and followed by the variable capital B. So this is the order that we have selected of the three variables. You can choose any order that you want, but this is the order that we have selected. Now what we'll do is we'll pick up each variable in order one by one, and we'll process the productions of the variable. So we'll pick up variable capital S first of all, and we'll process the productions of the variable capital S. Followed by this, we'll pick up the productions of the variable capital A and process them, and we'll pick up the variable productions of the variable capital B and process them. When I process the productions of the variable capital S, then after processing, they become like this, that their right hand side can either begin from terminal symbol, or it can begin from the variable capital A, or it can begin from the variable capital B. So these are the only possibility. The point is, when I pick up the variable capital S for processing, after productions of the variable capital S they have been processed, their right hand side can either begin from terminal symbol, or their right hand side can begin from the variables which are later in the order, that is capital A and capital B. So that means after processing productions of the variable capital S, they can either begin from terminal symbol small a, or it can begin from the variable capital A or capital B. Having processed the productions of the variable capital S, then I'll pick up the variable capital A and I'll do the processing, and after processing, productions of the variable capital A, their right hand side can either begin from terminal symbol or it can begin from the variable capital B. So the point is, when I process the productions of the variable capital A, it can either begin from the terminal symbol or it can begin from the variable which is later in the order, which is capital B. But it cannot begin from capital S because it is earlier in the order, earlier than capital A. So when I modify the productions of the variable capital A, I will ensure that their right hand side either begins from terminal symbol or it begins from the variable which is later than capital A in the order, that is capital B in this case. Then I'll pick up the variable capital B and I'll process the productions of the variable capital B, and after processing productions of the variable capital B, their right hand side can only begin from terminal symbol. Why? Because this is the last variable in the order, so this can only begin from the terminal symbol. When I modify the productions of the grammar like this, then my claim is left recursion in more than one step that will get eliminated. How? And let us try to understand this as to why is this happening. So if I start the derivation now with the modified production, when I expand the capital S, it can either begin from terminal symbol small a, or it can begin from capital A, or it can begin from capital B. These are the only possibility. If I look at the productions of the capital S, they are either beginning from a small a, or they are beginning from small capital A, or they are beginning from capital B. So if I start the derivation from capital S and I expand it, now the string that I will obtain, it can either begin from a small a, or it can begin from capital A, or it can begin from capital B. These are the only possibility. Now, if when I expand the capital A, the string that I will obtain can either begin from terminal symbol or it can begin from capital B. Why? Because if I look at the productions of capital A, they are either beginning from a small a or they are beginning from capital B. So when I expand this capital A, the string that I will obtain, it will either begin from a small a or capital B. Similarly, when I expand this capital B, the string that I will obtain can only begin from the terminal symbol. Similarly, when I expand this capital B, the string that I will obtain can only begin from this terminal symbol. So if you look at this, we have considered all the possibilities, and in none of the possibility we are obtaining capital S on the right hand side, beginning from the capital S. So when I start from capital S, the string that I will obtain can either begin from a small a, or it can begin from capital A, or it can begin from capital B, but it cannot begin from capital S. So the left recursion in more than one step gets eliminated if I process the productions of the grammar in this particular manner. So now what we have to learn is uh, how do we process the production of capital A so that they become like this? How do we process the productions of capital A so that they become like this? And how do we process the production of capital B so that it become like this? Because if the productions of these three variables are like this, then left recursion in more than one step, that will get eliminated. So now we'll learn how do we process the productions of the variable capital S, capital A, and capital B. Let us now process the productions of the variable in the order. First of all, we'll process the production of the variable capital S. Followed by this, I'll process the productions of the variable capital A, and then we'll process the productions of the variable capital B. When I consider and process the productions of the variable capital S, what is the goal that we have to achieve? The productions of the variable capital S, their right hand side can either begin from terminal symbol or they can begin from the variable which are later than capital S in the order. So that means it can also begin from capital A and it can also begin from capital B. When I process the production of the variable capital A, what is the goal that we have to achieve? The right hand side can either begin from terminal symbol or it can begin from the variable which are later in the order than capital A. And there is only one variable capital B which is later in the order, so that means right hand side can either begin from terminal symbol or it can begin from the variable capital B. When I process the production of the variable capital B, what is the goal that we have to achieve? Since it is the last variable in the order, right hand side can only begin from the terminal symbol. So I have to do the processing of the productions of these three variables in such a manner so that this is the goal which is achieved. Let's pick up the production of the variable capital S, and when you examine the production of the capital S, you find that right hand side is beginning with the capital S. It is a case of immediate left recursion, so we'll eliminate it using the technique that we discussed earlier. And this is beginning with the variable capital A, no issue with this, and it is beginning with the terminal symbol, no issue with this. So as for the productions of the variable capital S, I simply have to eliminate this immediate left recursion. So when I eliminate, I obtain the new production as capital S derives capital A, small b, I'm introducing a new variable S dash, and small b S dash, and from S dash I have production small a S dash and epsilon. Now if you examine the production of the variable capital S, it is beginning with capital A, no issue with this, and it is beginning with the terminal symbol, no issue with this. Immediate left recursion that was there, that has got eliminated. Having processed the production of the variable capital S, now we'll process the production of the variable capital A, and this is the goal that we have to achieve. If you look at the production of the variable capital A, you find that it is right hand side is beginning with capital S. Since capital S is earlier than capital A in the order, so I have to process this production. And in order to process this, what we'll do is I'll expand this capital S with the production of the capital S. I have two production from capital S. These are the two production. So this capital S will be expanded with these two. So the new production that we obtain is this capital A derives capital A is small b S dash and small d, and a small b S dash and a small d. So the production got replaced with these two production. Now when you examine, the right hand side is beginning with capital A, it is the case of immediate left recursion, and the right hand side is beginning with the terminal symbol, no issue with this. So we'll now eliminate this immediate left recursion. So for this we apply the same technique, and now after eliminating the immediate left recursion, the production of the variable will become b S dash small d. Let me introduce a new variable, and from A dash I have production b S dash d, and A dash, and I'm deriving epsilon. So when after doing this, when I now examine the production of the variable capital A, it is beginning with the terminal symbol, satisfying this property. So we have now processed the production of the variable capital A. Now let us look at the production of the variable capital B. This is simple. The right hand side is beginning with the variable capital B. It is a case of immediate left recursion, and the right hand side is beginning with the with the variable capital A. Since capital A is earlier in the order than capital B, so I will replace and expand this capital A using this production, and this will be eliminated using the immediate left recursion. When I do this processing, then productions of the variable capital B, they will satisfy this particular property. And we have already argued that if my productions are satisfying this property, then left recursion in more than one step, that gets eliminated. We are learning how to build the parser. A top-down parser derives the given string using the grammar, starting the derivation from the starting symbol capital S. So let's say the grammar that I have is capital S derives a small a capital A and a small b capital A, and from capital A I have only one production, that is this one, and the string that we are trying to derive is this string, and we start the derivation from starting symbol capital S. The first question that we face is, which production should I use for expanding this capital S? Whether to use the first production or to use the second production. Now this question can be easily answered. All the strings which are derivable from the second production, they begin with a small b. And all the strings which are derivable from the first production, they begin with a small a. Since the string that we have in hand is beginning with a small b, this cannot be derived from the first production. This can be derived from the second production. So I will expand the capital S using the second production, and I obtain the sentential form. And finally, I expand the capital A with D and obtain the given string. So here the grammar was simple, and it was in such a form so that for the parser to know which production to use at some step of the derivation, it was easier. Now let's take another example, and this example is for about if then else statement. So the grammar that we have is capital S derives if E then S else S, and capital S derives if E then S. We have considered this grammar earlier in the lecture. And let's say the string that we are trying to parse is this one, if B then D. Now when I look at if and we start the derivation from capital S, when I look at the if and I try to decide which production should I use for expanding the capital S, whether to use this production or to use this production, now I'll face difficulty. All the strings which are derivable from the first production, they begin with if, and all the strings which are derivable from the second production, they also begin with if. So when I look at the given string, it is beginning with if, and I am not able to decide whether to use the first production or to use the second production for expansion. In order to handle this issue, what I'll do is I will lift factor the grammar. I will bring the grammar to the suitable form so that it is easier to decide which production to use. So for this, what I'll do is I will modify the grammar. And what modification will I make? The modification will be, the modification in the grammar will be capital S derives uh, if capital E then capital S. Let me erase this. Yes, capital S derives if capital E then S, and followed by this I have S dash. From S dash I have a statement else capital S, and from S dash I am also deriving epsilon. So now what will happen is that from capital S, now when I have left factored the grammar, from capital S I have only one production. So that means I do not face with the difficulty of deciding which one to use. Since I have only one production, so that is the only one to be applied. So when I see the if, I expand the capital S using the only production and obtain this sentential form if capital E then capital S followed by this S dash. When I reach at this point, and if I find the else clause, then I will expand the S dash using the first production. Otherwise, I'll expand S dash using the epsilon. So when I reach at this point, and if I see else in the input, then in that case, I will be expanding this S dash using the first production, otherwise I'll expand S dash using the epsilon. So now the problem which was earlier there, that which production to use for expanding a variable, that problem has gone away if I bring the grammar to the suitable form by applying the left factoring. If I generalize this discussion, I can say that if the grammar is containing the production of type capital A derives alpha beta 1 and capital A derives alpha beta 2, since all the strings which are derivable from the first production, they will begin with alpha. All the strings which are derivable from the second production, they will also begin with alpha. So here the same issue will be there. So when the string, I find this string, I will face difficulty in deciding whether to use this production or to use this production. So now I apply the left factoring and I introduce a new variable, capital A derives alpha A dash, and from A dash I am keeping the portion which is different, that is from A dash I am deriving beta 1 and beta 2. So this is how you can apply left factoring and bring the grammar to the suitable form so that the parser does not face difficulty in deciding which production to use at some step of the derivation.